The sun had not yet fully risen when the first rays of light touched the small windows of a tiny house at the edge of the city. Inside, the air was cool and still, carrying the faint smell of boiled tea leaves from the night before. Two young girls, twins named Myra and Lena, sat on the edge of their wooden bed, whispering to each other so their mother would not wake up. They were only 13, with thin arms and hopeful eyes that still carried a sparkle even in hard times. Their mother, Sarah, lay quietly on the other side of the room. She had been coughing through the night. Her face looked pale, and her hands trembled whenever she tried to sit up. Sarah worked as a cleaner in a large office building in the city center. Every morning before the sun rose, she would leave home with a small bag of food and return late in the evening, tired but smiling at her daughters. That small job was the only source of income for the family. It was not much, but it was enough to buy simple food and pay the rent for their modest home. But this morning was different. Sarah tried to sit up, but her body felt weak. Her voice was low when she called, "Myra." Lena, the twins rushed to her side. "Mother, don't get up," said Lena gently. "You have been coughing all night. You need to rest." Sarah shook her head. "I cannot stay home. If I don't go, they might give the job to someone else. We cannot lose this work." Her words were full of worry, not for herself, but for her children. The twins exchanged a look. They knew how much their mother struggled every day, and their young hearts ached to see her in such pain. Myra took her mother's hand. "Mother, you cannot walk today. Your feet are cold, and your head is hot. Please stay home, just for one day." "But what will we eat?" "The rent is due in 2 weeks," Sarah whispered, her eyes full of tears. The house was quiet for a long moment. The sound of a clock ticking on the wall felt louder than usual. Finally, Lena spoke with a trembling voice, "What if we go instead? We know how to clean. We can sweep and wipe the floors like you do. No one will know." Sarah looked shocked. "No, you are too young. That place is big, and the people there are not always kind. I cannot allow you to do that." But Myra added softly, "Mother, please. Just today. We will go early and come back before night. You need rest. We are not babies anymore." Sarah's heart broke at their words. She wanted to protect them, but she also knew their small cupboard was almost empty. There was only a little rice left, and no money to buy medicine. Slowly, she closed her eyes and let out a sigh. "All right, but only this once. Promise me you will be careful." The twins nodded quickly. They felt a mix of fear and courage inside them. They had never gone to that part of the city alone, but they were determined to help. As the sky turned brighter, Myra and Lena dressed in their mother's old cleaning uniform. It was too big for them, and the sleeves hung loosely. They tied their hair back with simple ribbons and carried a small cloth bag with some bread wrapped inside. Before leaving, they covered their mother with a warm blanket and placed a cup of water beside her bed. The streets were already waking up as they walked toward the bus stop. The city felt much larger than it did in their dreams. Tall buildings touched the sky, and cars rushed past them with horns blaring. The twins held each other's hands tightly, afraid of getting lost. When they reached the office building, they stopped at the large glass doors. It was the tallest building they had ever seen, shining in the morning light. Workers in neat clothes passed them without looking twice. The security guard at the entrance looked at them for a moment but said nothing when they showed the small card their mother had given them. Perhaps he thought they were her helpers. Inside, the air smelled of polished floors and new furniture. The twins took a deep breath. It was time to start. They placed their bag in a corner and began cleaning, just as their mother had taught them. Myra wiped the windows, standing on her toes, while Lena swept the wide hallways, her small hands gripping the broom tightly. The building was huge. Every step echoed in the quiet morning halls. Their hearts pounded whenever they heard footsteps, afraid someone might ask where their mother was. But no one did. The workers were busy with their own tasks, and the twins moved quickly from one floor to another. Hours passed. Their arms began to ache, but they did not stop. They thought of their mother lying weak at home, and that gave them strength. When noon came, they sat in a hidden corner near the stairway and shared the bread they had brought. It was dry, but they smiled at each other, proud of what they had done so far. For the first time, they felt like they were carrying the weight their mother carried every day. It was heavy, but it was also full of love. They whispered to each other, "We will do this. We have to." The afternoon sun moved slowly across the glass walls as they returned to their work. They had no idea that this one brave decision would soon change their lives forever. The next morning, the air around the city was filled with the rush of workers. The large office building stood tall against the pale sky, its windows reflecting the early sun. Inside, Myra and Lena moved quietly, their small shoes making soft sounds against the polished floor. This was their second day, and they still felt nervous, but they had a plan: work hard, stay unnoticed, and return home safely. The building was much busier than the day before. More people walked past them, talking on phones, carrying files, or waiting for elevators. The twins kept their eyes low, avoiding attention. They wore the same oversized uniform of their mother, and though it did not fit perfectly, it gave them a sense of belonging. Myra whispered, "We must finish the hall first. Then we can clean the glass near the lobby." Lena nodded. "And we must be quick. The more we finish, the less they will notice us." The twins worked side by side. Myra wiped down the chairs and tables in the waiting area, while Lena carefully polished the handles of the glass doors. Their hands were small, but they moved with care, just as their mother had taught them. Every movement carried the weight of their family's needs. As they worked, a few employees glanced their way, whispering to each other. Some were curious, some indifferent. But no one asked any questions, not yet. The girls felt a mix of relief and tension. They were determined not to make mistakes. Around mid-morning, they entered the wide corridor near the executive offices. The floor shone under the bright lights. The windows stretched high, showing the busy streets below. Myra paused for a moment to look outside. Cars moved like tiny toys, and people hurried along the sidewalks. "It feels like another world from up here," she said softly. Lena, holding the mop, gave a small smile. "Yes, but we are only here to work. Let's not forget why." As they continued cleaning, a man in a dark suit walked by. He was tall, with sharp eyes and a serious face. The twins froze for a moment, but he simply walked past, speaking quickly into his phone. They did not know that this man was one of Mr. Adil's assistants. By noon, their hands were sore, and their backs ached from bending and scrubbing. They sat down behind a pillar, taking a short break. From their small cloth bag, they took out the bread they had brought from home. It was the same dry piece from the day before, but they chewed quietly, watching the workers around them eat in the cafeteria with steaming plates and cups of tea. "Do you think Mother is feeling better now?" Myra asked, her voice filled with worry. "I hope so," Lena replied. "She said she would take the medicine today. We must hurry home after this." Their short rest was interrupted when a cleaner from another floor walked past them. She stopped, frowned slightly, and asked, "You two, are you new here? I don't remember seeing you before." Myra's heart skipped a beat. She quickly stood up and said, "We are helping our mother. She was not well today." The woman looked at them for a long moment, then sighed. "This is not a place for children. Be careful, or someone might ask questions. Work quietly." The twins nodded, grateful she did not ask further. When she left, Lena whispered, "We have to be more careful. If they ask too many questions, they might send us away. The afternoon passed slowly. The building grew quieter as some workers left for outside meetings. Myra and Lena moved to the upper floors, carrying their small bucket and cleaning cloths. Their bodies were tired, but their minds stayed focused. They thought of their mother lying at home, her weak smile encouraging them. Near the end of the day, they were asked to clean a small conference room on the 20th floor. It had wide glass walls, a long table, and many chairs. As they were finishing, Lena accidentally dropped a cloth near the elevator door. The sound echoed in the quiet hallway. The elevator opened with a soft bell. A man stepped out, holding a briefcase. His presence made the hallway seem even quieter. He wore a dark gray suit, and his watch gleamed under the lights. His eyes immediately noticed the two small figures by the door. Myra froze, her hands clutching the bucket. Lena quickly bent down to pick up the cloth, her fingers trembling. The man's brows furrowed slightly. "Who are you?" His voice was calm but sharp. Myra stammered, We are cleaners, sir. Just finishing the room." He took a step closer, his eyes scanning their small frames and ill-fitting uniforms. "Cleaners? At this hour? You both look very young." Lena kept her eyes on the floor, unsure what to say. Myra tried to stay brave. "Our mother works here, sir. She could not come today." The man said nothing for a moment. Then he adjusted his watch and walked past them without another word, leaving them standing in the hallway with their hearts pounding. When the elevator closed behind him, Lena whispered, "Was that him? Was that the owner?" "I don't know," Myra said quietly. "But he looked important." They quickly finished their work, picked up their small bag, and left the building as the evening lights began to shine. The streets were busy with people heading home, but the twins walked together in silence. Their first full day was done, but something in their hearts felt uneasy. The man's sharp eyes and sudden appearance stayed in their minds. They did not know that their small act of courage had already started to draw attention. Somewhere in that tall building, questions had begun to form about the two little cleaners who worked like shadows. The following day, the sky was cloudy, and the air felt heavier than usual. Myra and Lena woke up early again, their small hands holding the same worn cleaning tools. Their mother, Sarah, still looked weak, but she tried to smile when they kissed her forehead before leaving. "Be careful, my daughters," she whispered. "Do not stay too long. And do not speak much to strangers." The twins nodded. They wanted to tell her about the man they saw yesterday, the one who asked questions, but they chose to stay quiet. They didn't want her to worry even more. The streets were still waking up as they reached the tall office building. This time, the guard gave them a long look but allowed them inside. The building was already buzzing with people, phones ringing, footsteps echoing, and doors opening and closing. Myra and Lena moved quickly, starting with the lower floors before the offices filled up. As they worked, their thoughts kept going back to the man they had met near the elevator. His serious face and sharp voice were still fresh in their minds. "Do you think he will come again today?" Lena asked quietly as she dusted the chairs in the lobby. Myra shrugged. "I don't know. But if he does, we must be careful. Maybe he will ask about Mother again." The hours passed, and the girls kept working. They cleaned the glass doors, wiped tables, and swept the shiny floors. Their hands were red from the cold water, and their feet ached, but they pushed through. They had learned to move like shadows, fast, silent, and unseen. By noon, they carried their small bucket to the upper floors again. The offices there were quieter, with thick carpets and polished wood panels. As they stepped out of the elevator, they saw a group of men and women walking down the hallway, talking in low voices. Among them was the same man from yesterday. His name, as the workers whispered, was Mr. Adil, the owner of the entire building. The twins quickly lowered their heads and moved to the side, hoping he would not notice them. But his eyes were sharp. He slowed his steps and looked at them again. Something about their small size and tired faces made him pause. "Stop for a moment," he said, turning to them. The group behind him also stopped. The twins froze, their hands gripping the handles of their bucket tightly. "You two," Mr. Adil said calmly, "are you the cleaners I saw yesterday?" Myra nodded slowly. "Yes, sir." "Where is the woman who usually does this work?" The hallway felt silent. The twins exchanged a nervous glance. Lena opened her mouth but no words came out. Finally, Myra spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "She is not well, sir." "Not well?" His voice softened a little. "And who sent you?" Myra hesitated. "We came ourselves. We did not want her to lose the job." There was a moment of stillness. Mr. Adil's eyes narrowed, but not in anger, rather in thought. The people around him looked surprised but said nothing. After a pause, he said, "Go on with your work." Then he turned and walked away, leaving the twins standing in the hallway with their hearts pounding. When he disappeared into his office, Lena whispered, "He knows now. What if he tells someone to send us away?" "We must finish the work quickly and go home," Myra replied. "Maybe nothing will happen." The rest of the day felt longer than usual. The twins moved from one floor to another, always looking over their shoulders. Every time they heard footsteps, their hearts jumped. They finished cleaning earlier than before, hoping to leave before anyone else noticed them. But when they reached the main entrance in the evening, the same man's assistant was waiting near the door. He watched them carefully as they stepped outside. The twins did not speak a word until they were far away from the building. On the bus ride home, Lena stared out the window. The lights of the city blurred past, bright and distant. "Why do you think he looked at us like that?" she asked. Myra thought for a while. "Maybe he is curious. Or maybe he feels something is wrong." When they reached home, their mother was sitting on the bed, a thin blanket over her shoulders. She smiled weakly when she saw them. "Did everything go well?" "Yes, Mother," Lena said quickly, trying not to show her worry. "We worked quietly." Sarah nodded, but her eyes searched their faces. "You both look tired. Come, eat something." The night was quiet, but sleep did not come easily for the twins. They kept thinking about the man in the suit, his calm voice, and the way he had looked at them, not with anger, but with a question in his eyes. They did not know that this small encounter had already planted a thought in his mind, one that would soon lead him to their doorstep. The next morning was cold and windy. The twins, Myra and Lena, walked slowly toward the office building with the same cleaning tools in their hands. Their mother, Sarah, had tried to get up, but her body was still weak. She told them to be careful once again and rest whenever possible. Myra whispered as they walked, "Do you think that man will see us again today?" Lena held her sister's hand tightly. "I don't know, but we should work quickly and leave before evening." When they entered the tall building, the same guard nodded at them, but this time, he looked at them with more curiosity. The building was alive with the morning rush, workers with files, ringing phones, and the smell of fresh coffee. The twins quietly went to their usual tasks, starting with the floors near the lobby. But far above them, in one of the large glass offices, Mr. Adil sat at his desk, looking at a paper in his hand. His assistant had told him more about the two small cleaners. There was no record of them in the building's list of workers. Only their mother's name was listed, Sarah. He remembered seeing her a few times before, a quiet woman, always working silently. "Find out where they live," Mr. Adil said to his assistant that morning. "And do not tell them anything yet." The assistant nodded and left quickly. Meanwhile, Myra and Lena worked quietly. Their hands moved fast, wiping tables, sweeping corners, and polishing the handles of doors. They kept their eyes down, but inside their hearts, there was a growing fear. They could feel that someone had noticed them. By noon, they had finished the lower floors and moved to the upper levels. There, the hallways were calm, with only a few people walking by. The air smelled of fresh flowers placed in tall vases. Lena whispered, "I wish Mother could rest for a few more days. She still looks so pale." Myra nodded. "We must do this until she gets better." Hours passed slowly. The twins shared a small piece of bread again near the stairway, talking quietly about school and the days when their mother used to laugh more. They missed those days. Late in the afternoon, as the building began to grow quieter, they prepared to leave. But before they could step outside, Mr. Adil's assistant appeared near the entrance. He stopped them politely. "You two," he said, "please wait for a moment. Someone wishes to speak with you." The twins exchanged a nervous glance. Their small fingers tightened around the cleaning bucket. Moments later, Mr. Adil himself appeared, walking slowly with his hands behind his back. His expression was calm, not angry. "Come with me," he said gently. They followed him, their footsteps soft on the shiny floor. He led them to a quiet corner near the lobby where no one else was standing. "I want to know the truth," he said, looking at them kindly but firmly. "Why are you two working here? Where is your mother?" Myra took a deep breath. She had hidden the truth for days, but now her eyes filled with tears. "Our mother, she is sick. She could not come to work. We did not want her to lose the job, so we came instead." Lena added in a soft voice, "We only wanted to help. We will leave if you ask us to." There was a long silence. Mr. Adil studied their faces. They were young, their cheeks slightly red from cold, their hands rough from work that was never meant for them. "Where do you live?" he asked. Myra hesitated but finally gave him the address. That evening, after the twins left, Mr. Adil sat in his office, staring at the city lights outside his window. He thought about the two little girls cleaning floors quietly, afraid yet brave. Something stirred in his heart. It was not just about work anymore. It was about responsibility, something he rarely felt in his busy, lonely life. He made a decision. "Take me to their house tomorrow," he told his driver. "I want to see their mother." The next day, the twins were not aware that a black car was following them from a distance. They reached their small home as usual, greeted their mother, and began to prepare a simple dinner. Sarah was sitting on the bed, coughing softly. A gentle knock came at the door. Myra opened it, and her eyes widened in surprise. Mr. Adil was standing there, holding a small bag in his hand. "Good evening," he said quietly. "May I come in?" Sarah looked confused but nodded. The small room felt even smaller as he stepped inside and looked around. His eyes fell on the worn furniture, the cracked wall, and the small table with only a few pieces of bread. "So this is where you live," he said softly. The twins stood near their mother, unsure of what would happen next. Their hearts beat fast. They feared he had come to take away their mother's job. But Mr. Adil's voice was gentle as he spoke again. "You should not be working when you are sick. And these girls should not be working in your place. Why didn't you tell anyone?" Sarah lowered her eyes. "I was afraid to lose my work, sir. It is the only way I can care for my daughters." There was a moment of silence. The sound of the wind outside the window filled the room. Mr. Adil nodded slowly. "I understand." He placed the small bag on the table. Inside was some medicine and food. "Rest for now. We will talk more tomorrow." Before leaving, he looked at the twins. Their eyes were full of worry, but for the first time, a small hope flickered inside them. The next morning, the twins woke up earlier than usual. The air in their small house was cool, and the faint light of dawn touched the cracked walls. Their mother, Sarah, was still resting. Her face looked tired, but there was a calmness in her breathing after taking the medicine that Mr. Adil had left behind the night before. Myra quietly placed a hand on her mother's forehead. "She feels a little better," she whispered to Lena. Lena nodded. "Yes. Maybe today she can eat something warm." They were about to prepare a simple meal when a gentle knock came at the door. Both girls froze. It was still early, and no visitors ever came at this hour. Myra walked to the door and slowly opened it. Standing outside was Mr. Adil again, this time without his assistant. He carried a small package in one hand. "Good morning," he said in a calm voice. "May I come in?" The twins stepped aside, and Sarah, hearing the voice, tried to sit up. "Sir, you came again," she said softly. "Yes," he replied, placing the package on the small table. "I wanted to see how you are feeling. Did you take the medicine?" Sarah nodded. "Yes, sir. Thank you. I feel a little better." Mr. Adil looked around the room once more. The thin curtains let in a small amount of light. A few dishes were stacked near the sink, and the twins' school books were lying in a corner, gathering dust. "You have been working for my company for a long time," he said. "Why did you not tell anyone you were sick? We could have arranged help." Sarah lowered her eyes. "I did not want to be a burden, sir. Work is hard to find, and I was afraid." Mr. Adil sighed. His gaze shifted to the twins. They stood quietly, their hands clasped together, their faces still carrying the tiredness of the past few days. "And you too, you should not have been cleaning that building. Those halls are not meant for children. You should be in school." Myra spoke carefully. "We only wanted to help our mother, sir. There was no one else." For a moment, the room was silent except for the soft sound of the wind outside. Mr. Adil thought about his own childhood, how his mother had once worked day and night after his father passed away, how she never asked for help because of pride. He understood this feeling too well. Finally, he said, "I am not here to take anyone's job. But this situation cannot continue like this. Your mother needs rest, and you both need to study." Lena asked, her voice hesitant, "Will she lose the job, sir?" Mr. Adil shook his head. "No, I will not let that happen." Sarah looked up in surprise. "Sir, you have already done enough by bringing medicine. We cannot ask for more." "You did not ask," he replied gently. "But sometimes, help must be given even when it is not asked for." He opened the package he had brought. Inside was fresh bread, some fruit, and a few basic groceries. "This is for today," he said. "From tomorrow, I will arrange for your wages to continue while you recover. And as for the girls, they will not work in that building anymore. Instead, they will return to school." The twins looked at each other. Their eyes were wide, unsure if they had heard correctly. "School?" Myra repeated softly. "Yes," said Mr. Adil. "It is not safe for you to work like that. You have your whole life ahead. I will help you with the expenses for now. All I ask is that you study well and care for your mother." Sarah's lips trembled. "Sir, this is too much. We cannot repay you." "There is no need to repay," he said. "Sometimes, a little kindness can change a life." He stood up, ready to leave, but turned at the door. "I will visit again tomorrow to see if you need anything else. And Sarah, do not worry about the job. It is safe." After he left, the small room felt warm for the first time in weeks. Myra touched the package on the table. "Lena, is this real? Or are we dreaming?" Lena smiled for the first time in many days. "It is real. Maybe things will change now." Their mother wiped her eyes with the edge of her scarf. "I have worked for so long, thinking no one ever noticed. But sometimes, people do care." We just do not see it. The rest of the day passed quietly. The twins prepared a simple soup with the fresh bread and fed their mother. For the first time, she ate without forcing a smile. There was real relief in her face. That night, as the stars appeared outside the small window, Myra whispered, "Maybe tomorrow will be better than yesterday." Lena nodded. "Yes. Maybe this is the beginning of something new." Far away in his large home, Mr. Adil sat at his desk, thinking about the family he had just met. He had wealth, but his house was often silent, his meals lonely. Something about those brave little girls reminded him of the value of simple care and honest effort. He made another decision that night, one that would not only help them for a few days but might change their future completely. The next morning, soft sunlight filtered through the thin curtains of the small house. The twins, Myra and Lena, woke up early as usual, but this time their hearts felt lighter. Their mother, Sarah, was sitting up in bed, sipping warm tea. Her face looked a little brighter, and her coughing had lessened since she started taking the medicine. Myra smiled. "You look better today, Mother." Sarah nodded gently. "Yes, my dear. The medicine helped. And the food yesterday, it gave me strength." Lena added, "Mr. Adil said he would come again. Do you think he really meant what he said about school?" Sarah touched Lena's cheek softly. "I do not know, but his words sounded true. Sometimes, people surprise us." A knock came at the door, just as they were speaking. It was still early, and their hearts jumped for a moment. Myra ran to open it, and as expected, Mr. Adil stood there, holding a neat folder and a small basket of fresh fruit. "Good morning," he greeted with a kind smile. "How are we feeling today?" Sarah tried to stand, but he gestured for her to sit. "Please, do not get up. Rest is more important now." He placed the basket on the table and opened the folder. Inside were some papers, a few forms, and a letter with an official stamp. "I thought about your situation last night," he said calmly. "Your mother will continue to receive her wages while she recovers. I have already spoken to the office manager about it. And for you too," he looked at the twins with gentle eyes, "I have arranged for your school enrollment. Classes start next week." The twins gasped softly. Myra's fingers tightened around the edge of the table. "Really? We can go back to school?" "Yes," he replied. "You both deserve to study, not to carry buckets and brooms in a place filled with grown ups. I have also arranged for some basic school supplies and uniforms. They will arrive tomorrow." Sarah covered her face with her hands for a moment, overwhelmed by the kindness. "Sir, we never expected this. We thought we would only manage a little food and medicine." "You are doing so much." Mr. Adil shook his head. "It is not too much. It is the right thing to do. When someone works honestly for many years, as you have, they deserve support in times of need." The twins exchanged a glance. Their eyes, once tired and filled with worry, now carried a spark of hope. Lena whispered, "Thank you, sir. We will not waste this chance." He smiled faintly. "That is all I ask." For the rest of the morning, he spoke with Sarah about her health and the medicine she needed. He also asked about their home, if the roof leaked when it rained, if they had enough blankets for winter. The twins watched quietly, surprised at how someone so busy could care about such small details. Before leaving, he placed a small envelope on the table. "This will help you for the coming week. Use it for food and whatever you need. I will check again in a few days." As he stepped out, the small house felt brighter. Myra closed the door slowly and turned to her mother. "Mother, can you believe this? We do not have to go to that building anymore." Sarah smiled for the first time in days. "Yes, my dear. You will go to school now, and I will rest until I am strong again." The next few days passed with a quiet joy. The twins helped their mother around the house, cooked simple meals, and prepared for school. New notebooks and pencils arrived, along with 2 neatly folded uniforms. The sight of them brought tears to Sarah's eyes. On the morning of their first day back at school, the twins stood in front of the mirror, wearing the uniforms. They looked almost like different children, no longer tired cleaners, but students with bright eyes. "Do we look all right?" Myra asked, adjusting her collar. Lena laughed softly. "We look perfect. Let us make Mother proud." Their mother hugged them both. "Study well. This is your time now." Meanwhile, in his office, Mr. Adil looked at a photograph his assistant had quietly taken of the twins receiving their school supplies. For years, he had lived in wealth and silence, his world filled with numbers and meetings. But now, a small warmth filled his chest. He felt as though helping this little family had opened a door in his own life. That evening, he visited again, carrying books for the twins. "I brought these," he said, handing them over. "Stories, lessons, and some puzzles. They might help." Myra and Lena thanked him with bright smiles. They talked about their first day in school, how the classroom smelled of chalk and fresh paint, how the other children asked their names, how strange it felt to sit at a desk instead of bending over a mop. Mr. Adil listened quietly, his serious face softening. "This is how it should be," he said at last. "Children should have a chance to learn and dream." The nights grew calmer in their small home. The worry that once hung heavy in the air slowly faded. For the first time in a long while, Sarah slept peacefully, knowing her daughters were safe. And for Mr. Adil, who had once believed kindness was a weakness in the busy world of business, it became a reason to return, to visit, to care. Something had changed, not only for the twins but for him as well. The first weeks of school were full of excitement and nervousness for Myra and Lena. The girls had never imagined a life like this: clean desks, books filled with colorful pages, and a classroom full of children laughing and learning. Every morning, they dressed in their neat uniforms and walked to school holding hands, their hearts lighter than ever before. At home, Sarah had regained her strength. She no longer needed to worry constantly about her daughter's safety in the office building. She spent her days cooking simple meals, tending to a small plant by the window, and teaching the twins at home in the evenings. She smiled more often, a quiet relief washing over her heart. Mr. Adil continued his visits. He brought books, stationery, and sometimes small treats for the twins. Myra and Lena's laughter and curiosity filled the small house with a warmth that Sarah had not felt in months. For Mr. Adil, these visits were no longer a duty, they had become a highlight of his days. Watching the twins read aloud, share stories, or solve puzzles reminded him of a simpler, kinder world. One afternoon, as he watched Myra and Lena practicing multiplication tables, Mr. Adil said gently, "Do you know, when I was a child, I wished someone cared about my small problems. You remind me of those days." Lena looked up, her eyes wide. "But sir, we are just learning, nothing special." He shook his head with a small smile. "Sometimes, the smallest effort can make the biggest difference." The twins began to share their school experiences with their mother in the evenings. They spoke of their teachers, the stories they read, the friends they made. Their words carried a joy Sarah had not heard for a long time. It felt like a dream that had finally come true. Meanwhile, Mr. Adil quietly checked in on Sarah's work at the office. He had ensured her position was secure and even arranged for slightly reduced hours while she recovered fully. The office staff had noticed a change too. He was kinder, more thoughtful, and took time to listen to small details that usually went unnoticed. His actions, inspired by Myra and Lena's courage, slowly began influencing the workplace. One day, Myra and Lena came home excited. "Mother, guess what?" Myra said, her cheeks flushed with happiness. "Our teacher said we can join the school library program." We can read all the books we want. Lena nodded quickly. And we can participate in the art competition next month. Sarah smiled, holding their hands. I am so proud of both of you. You worked hard at home and now at school. This is your reward. As the weeks turned into months, the twins grew stronger and more confident. They learned new things each day, reading, writing, math, and even simple science experiments. Their eyes shone with curiosity, and their laughter filled every corner of their small home. The worries and fears that had once consumed them faded into distant memories. One rainy evening, the twins were sitting by the window, watching the droplets fall on the small garden outside. Sarah was knitting quietly, and the house smelled of warm soup. The twins turned to her, their faces glowing with a sense of hope. Mother, Lena said softly, do you think our lives will always be like this, happy and safe? Sarah smiled, brushing a strand of hair from Lena's face. Life will have challenges, my dear. But courage and honesty will always guide you through. Remember what you did for me, and how you never gave up. That is why today is so different. Just then, there was a knock at the door. Myra opened it to find Mr. Adil standing there, holding a small package of new books. Good evening, he said warmly. I thought you might enjoy some new stories and puzzles. The twins' eyes lit up. Thank you, sir. Sarah looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude. We cannot thank you enough. You changed our lives completely. He shook his head. No thanks needed. Seeing you all safe, learning, and happy is enough for me. As he left, the twins waved, and Myra whispered, he really cares about us. Lena nodded. Yes. And we will make him proud by studying hard and being kind. That night, as the twins slept peacefully, Sarah reflected on everything that had happened. From days of fear and struggle to this new life of hope, kindness had brought a change she had never imagined. For the first time in months, she felt a sense of complete peace. Far away in his tall office building, Mr. Adil looked at the city lights from his window. He had wealth, power, and influence, but those things alone had never filled his heart. The small family he had helped reminded him of the value of care, courage, and human connection. He smiled quietly to himself, realizing that sometimes, even the smallest acts of bravery, like two little girls cleaning floors to help their mother, could create ripples strong enough to change lives. From that day forward, Myra and Lena went to school with courage, learned with joy, and lived with hope. Sarah rested and recovered fully, never again worrying about survival alone. And Mr. Adil, once distant and busy, found warmth in the simplest of connections, proving that kindness and understanding could truly transform the world around us. The winter of struggle had ended, and a bright, hopeful spring had begun, not only for the small family but for everyone touched by their courage and honesty.